We're now going to look at how to leverage data in your day-to-day work. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of articles about data. So we'd like to invite the founders of MySky, Chris Marich and Kiril Kim up for this one. As quick as you like, guys. Like, we're going up to, oh, look at that. Jumping on. Do you want to just very quickly explain MySky? I'm sure everyone in the room knows you guys. Oh, you might turn it on.
Hello. Oh, yeah, perfect. Well, I wish everyone knows us, but I don't know if it's the case. But we both co-founded MySky about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago now, with one idea is how can we leverage technology to make business aviation operation more efficient. And today we're a spend and revenue management platform. Our goal is to empower our customers to optimize their processes and optimize the money they spend and allow them to also optimize their revenue.
Great. And what are the blind spots for owners and operators that you can identify?
Yeah, I'll start, I think, from the operators. So for operators, we find, the major blind spot, I think, the cost volatility. Our industry, in our opinion, is one of the most, probably the most cost volatile industry that exists today. Therefore, it's very hard to predict what are the handling fees will be, what are the maintenance costs will be, what are the fuel prices will be in the location you're going to visit. So all of those, of course, impacts that particular aspect. Now, also, the other aspect as well is the problem, the blind spot is the cash flow management, and cash flow feasibility, I would say. It's very hard to understand how many invoices you're expecting to receive at the end of the month, on a specific date. I mean, it's one of the biggest problem of the CFOs and all the operators today that we notice, because a lot of them don't understand how much of the invoice actually expecting to receive from handlers, from fuel, etc. So that's, in our opinion, one of the biggest blind spots where the operators are impacted.
And if I may add, we're also a very fragmented industry, right? There's a lot of players, a lot of people involved, and the lack of standardization, we think, in between those suppliers, right? On what we typically see at MySky is operators receive up to 12 invoices from 12 different suppliers for one single flight, right? So you multiply that by the amount of flight, you can imagine the amount, and all those suppliers, all those airports have different price lists, different way of pricing, different ways of calling the same things. So it makes it very hard. And on top of that, I think the nature of our industry is also very unpredictable, right? No one really knows. Compared to scheduled operation, we're in an unscheduled world, right? So you basically have almost no idea where you're going to be tomorrow, right? So it's hard to plan, it's hard to negotiate in advance. You're more on a reactive mode than a proactive mode when you operate unscheduled, usually.
So you came in to the industry 10 years ago to make it more efficient. Where are there still, have you managed that?
Partly, there's still a lot of things we want to do. We think, we went from one main thing for us when we started was understanding the cost structure of an operation, right? Versus focusing on the revenue part or the income, right? Really looking at how can we understand the cost base, and create this as a building block, basically, like the base of all the products we wanted to develop. So we started by doing that, focusing on the spend management. So what happens post-flight, once the aircraft lands, how can we bring more efficiency in treating all that data that comes in, analyzing and dispatching that data. So that's really where we started. And a couple of years ago, we shifted also saying, okay, how can we deploy our solution pre-flight? How can we help our customers to budget a yearly operation, for example, or budget a charter flight that is upcoming? So that's really how we're trying to expand the product suite, but there's a couple of things cooking still. So I think we're not there yet, but we're on the way.
And where are those other inefficiencies? What are the other areas you're cooking on?
I mean, what are the inefficiencies? Inefficiencies? Yeah.
Well, I think, okay, I start. I think we can break them down in two families of inefficiencies. I would say there's the time inefficiencies, first of all, right? The amount of human capital that is that is thrown at repetitive, low output tasks. That's one of the aspects, really, how to manage the time of the resources. How can I be also efficient in quoting a charter trip accurately, fast, right? Not, if I want to be accurate, so if I have to call up all the suppliers, it's going to take me forever. I don't have the luxury to do that, right? And that would be the first block, the time, and the second one is the money efficient. Maybe you want to talk about this one.
Yeah, we think that the second biggest inefficiency is still on the market is the optimal pricing on charter, because our industry is still struggling. Well, you spend a lot of resources to understand where you have to price a trip, what is the most optimal, when you need to go down, when you need to go up, to close a deal, right? Other industries, I mean, hotel industries, car industries, taxi industries, struggled less, and they already implemented this technology, right, of what dynamic pricing, we call it, right? Dynamic pricing, how to optimally price in real time the price, a bookable price. And our industry, in our opinion, struggles because we need to know the cost. We need to know the cost base in order to create a dynamic pricing that is optimally priced the charter trips. In our understanding, this is the biggest inefficiencies we see on the market today.
Do you think the industry's, so it's too reactive, or is it too reliant on someone experienced charter sales guy who can do that in their head and get it pretty much right? Is it too reliant on, experience?
Okay, that's a tricky one to answer. Do not upset anyone here in the room. But look, I think you can run your business in different ways. You can rely on the human expertise, and we're not saying that this should be completely sunsetted. Not at all, right? We're happy to talk a bit more about that after. But today, you want to, I think the market is becoming more competitive. You have to be more aggressive on how you price your fleet, like, floating bays, floating fleet. There's a lot of things. Maybe a couple of years ago, people were basically quoting from home base and back to home base, right? But today, if you want to win some trips, you have to find innovative ways to be competitive. But to what extent can you be competitive? If you quote a trip from home base and back, it's something you can maybe do in your head. But going, I don't know, to an airport you've never been, leaving the aircraft there for 3 days, and then going somewhere else, so that's much more complex when it comes to quoting. And if you want to win that trip, there's a ceiling where you can sell it, and there's also a floor where you should not go below. Otherwise, you're going to lose money, right? And I think that's understanding that gap between the ceiling and the floor is hard if you do it up to just based on assumptions.
So when you launched, everyone was launching Uber for jets, and then there was a stage when people were going to do tokens. Now AI is the solution to everything.
That's the question? Okay.
AI is now the trendy, is that going to solve all the problems the industry has?
It is a trendy word, but just coming for a second, if you can talk about AI, but just on the Uber of the sky, I think that's in our vision when we started the company as well, was, okay, how can people sell something based on the revenue without understanding the cost? And we started the journey in a less sexy way than coming and saying, hey, we're the Uber of the sky, but we focused on cost, the boring part, the accounting part, right? But that's really the foundation, and that's why, first of all, we think that maybe the Uber of the sky term is not very trendy anymore today. But maybe you want to talk about AI? I don't want to.
Well, I just want to add to the Ubers of the sky. The Ubers of the sky can only exist if you provide a bookable price on the market, which has to be at least the same price as Avinode confirmed price, when in my opinion, right? I mean, this is what it should be. So no one managed to do it. It was all the Ubers of the skies were RFQ-based pricing, which were never successful. So the company that's going to solve the bookable price will be the winner, in my opinion, on the market. So let's see who can do it. But it's coming to AI, right? I just wanted to say, look, I think there's two aspects where AI can help our industry very much. One is what we implement in MySky already today is reading of invoices and expenses, because as you know that, operators spend a lot of resources, manpower, right, into processing receipts, categorizing them, accounting them, reporting them to the owners, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's already machines that are reading them, right? Reading them, matching against the trips, verifying the prices on the contracts, et cetera, right? So all of this is already helping the industry today. The next stage where we think that AI will help our industry is the charter pricing, dynamic pricing. So the moment when the industry will implement dynamic pricing in the day-to-day, we think that the industry will exponentially grow in size, because we will just get a lot of demand, because the AI will learn how to optimally price the trip at a certain level. When it needs to go down, it will need to go down, taking a loss, and when it needs to go up, it will go up.
If I may just add, I know AI is a trendy word, but I think it's impacting our world in general today, right? And we can talk about that for hours. But I think historically our industry has been a bit slower to adapt to change, and I think now with AI we have the opportunity to catch up on other industries, right? That Kiril was mentioning, comparing hotel bookings, car rental, airline tickets, etc., where they're far more advanced when it comes to technology. And I think what our assumption at MySky is how can we now leverage AI to a level to catch up with those other industries, right? And to be on a similar level.
But for AI to work, you have to have good data. And, there's no easy resource for overflight fees that you get 6 weeks later after the flight.
Well, yeah, I think that was one of the main challenges when we started, right? The data is out there, but how can I access the data and to understand it? Yeah, I can get I don't know, like Munich airport's price list. It's 37 pages, and if I land on a Sunday, if it's raining, if it's whatever, like there's a million ways to calculate that, right? I can get that, but what am I going to do with it? Am I going to spend 5 hours to read those 37 pages to do a quote? Not necessarily, right? And that was the idea. How can we use that data and put that data in one central system? That's what we've been building also over the years, right? How can we leverage that data after? And it's true, when one of the things when we started as well was like, okay, those operators are getting all those invoices, you pay them, and then you put them in a box in the basement and you forget about it, right? And it's very precious data. So how can that data live longer than after the payment cycle and be of value for my company in the future? And that's what we try to do with that data. And we're trying to get more access to the data. And maybe I just add one thing, is that typically also when we started, people were more reluctant to share that data. It was mostly siloed, and that's, I think, a very important path forward for our industry that needs to still evolve a little bit.
Right, we've got some questions. How important, this is from Vlad at Flex, how important is demand in the pricing equation versus cost? Like if you look at Uber, they have surge pricing.
Very important, but the cost-based as important as demand, because again, when you try to optimally price, you need to know the bottom line, because when you're going to go try to price competitive, you will get close to the bottom line, and if you cross it over, you're going to be at loss. So that's but the demand, of course, is a very, very important aspect of it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But as I mentioned before, we wanted to start with understanding this floor you should never go below, right? And how to protect yourself. Like our industries, the margins are not that big, right? You're quoting a charter trip. You say, okay, I'm going to do 2K profit on this trip. you stay 24 hours longer in Luton and you're at a loss, right? So that's the type of things you have to protect yourself against. And yeah, the second part is the revenue, and that's also what we're working on hard now to understand how to maximize that part.
And you mentioned when operators switch to dynamic pricing. This is an audience. Who is going to bring it in first, and in which region?
Flex. No, but I think to be honest, Europe. Europe is, in our opinion, more European, right? International markets. I mean, more advanced into the cost assessments, in my opinion, right? I mean, that's what we've seen in the MySky experience over some years. So, in our opinion, that's the market that will adopt it first.
What advice would you give to an operator or owner who wants to future-proof their business?
Well, I think
apart from buying your product.
Well, that's the obvious one, yeah. But I think it's making sure to, buying product, but evolving, right, and using the tech that is out there, right? Not only what MySky does, but there's a lot of people that we integrate with as well, and that we think are part of the ecosystem. And I think transitioning to a more digital workflow is key. We saw that in cockpits, right? But I think in the back office, it's also something that is key to the efficiency and to the scalability of the companies, right? Because if you're dependent only on headcount, also in today's world, finding the right people for an organization to grow is not so easy. So having the help of technology is really important. And I just want to emphasize on the helping part, right? We're not saying, let's replace everyone by AI, let's get rid of everyone. That's not the idea at all, right? We're saying, okay, how can technology empower people, right? Like, I don't know, example. Is it really fun for a human to answer 250 Avinode requests when they come up in the morning? I'm not sure, right? Why can the machine not do that part? And then the human can really go into the negotiation, right? Calling up that broker, giving him a €100 discount, making that trip happen, right? And coming back to what I was saying earlier, being more proactive in your process versus reactive. I think that's
although 38% of the audience want to be replaced by AI. Graham, final question. How can you know the optimum time to book and not just price?
That's an interesting one, and that's what we're working on as well, bringing more and more pieces to the equation, right? As we said, starting with the price, looking at the revenue, and also looking at seasonality, looking at that's what we're working on now as well. Okay, that's pure revenue management, right? And that's what we want to bring. Hey, can I sell more on a Wednesday versus Thursday? Is June a better month for me to sell? Should I open my calendar 1 month or 6 months in advance? Those are all things where we can really use that machine learning to analyze past trends and to better optimize pricing, I think, in the future. And when I say optimize, I don't mean go as low as possible, right? But understanding what's the optimal sales price and be dynamic versus saying, okay, I sell at 6K per hour, I multiply that by the amount of hours, and that's my rate, no matter the season or the day or
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Qatar Executive is doing dynamic pricing on the lunch outside.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.